Welcome back to MSI 2019. I am Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns here with Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley and Chris Papa Smithy Smith to bring y'all through the last half of the day here on day number 4. Gentlemen, are we ready for some League of Legends?
I'm feeling hyped. This is going to be an interesting last set of games. I feel like some of the results right now, before the games have started, seem straightforward, but the methodology and the fact that group stage always sends those curveballs leave you wondering what we might be ready for.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you've got to point out, this is not the Flash Wolves from the first day. They have been getting better. They have been getting more competitive. They turned in 2 fairly competitive games against G2. They took down TL. They took down Fengvu. And they do seem to be playing better League of Legends in these last couple days.
And honestly, what you hope by this point in a tournament is the team knows where their bread is buttered. Who should we play through? What is our strategy that will work today? Not what worked at playoffs, not what worked in the regular season, but what strategy will work against this motley crew of the best teams in the world, and getting behind Betty and the team fight style, the bread and butter of the Flash Wolves in their better games.
And talking about the best teams in the world, you're looking at the team who was known as the best for so long. We heard from FLICKR at the beginning of this tournament how he wanted to bring Korea back from that disappointment of last year, and SKT has 2 games in front of them that a lot of people are looking at as very, very winnable.
And sadly, that disappointment for SKT fans, especially those longtime fans, is likely to persist after today, because they don't actually get to change the ledger against the big favorites of this tournament. Invictus Gaming, they will be playing them tomorrow. They've already played G2 twice. So right now, fans are looking for much more than just a 2-0. I think there needs to be high expectations today. What can SKT show to make this MSI 2019 not just about China versus Europe?
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like when you're going into these games for SKT, the only result is the same or disappointment, right? If you do turn into poor games here, people are going to be even more worried about their chances against IG and G2, so they certainly want to be showing extremely clean games. Speaking of a positive note, certainly for SKT, though, I'm looking at Clid. I think that Clid has been so strong for SKT, not only in their wins, but even in those losses. Even when they were getting devastated in 16 minutes from IG, he still was turning in some solid performances.
How many tournaments where a team is 3-3 can a player be kind of consensus top 2 performer at the tournament? Feels like Rookie and Clid have been kind of the runaway stories. And yes, other great people have certainly cropped up and had big games. But like you're mentioning, Azale, 3-3, and yet Clid, 5 out of 6 games kind of taken over the jungle and bent it to his will.
And we can't forget the history of the matchup between these two teams either. Flash Wolves and SKT have met each other so many times on the international stage, so frequently the representatives of their regions, and this is going to be yet another chapter in that book of battles between Korea and the LMS.
But the surreal thing is, the names that have represented them as Flash Wolves and as SKT have been minimal. It's FLICKR, of course, on that side. Yes, other players have gone international, but not under that banner. And then, of course, Hanabi and Betty returning on the side of the Flash Wolves as well. So a lot has changed through all of this, and yet here we are. It's a best of 1. The Flash Wolves not without a chance of making top 4 if they can take off SKT, who right now don't have the halo effect of an IG or 2, a similar extent to G2. That would really help their chances as well.
It certainly would, and not only that, but it kind of blows the tournament, expectations completely apart. You then have 3 teams sitting at that 3-win mark, and all of a sudden, if SKT were to drop a game here, they are no longer, a given to actually lock into that semifinal, to lock into that top 4, which would be such a huge blow, I think, to this team and honestly to the LCK, who are really hungry for a huge international tournament result after a year of disappointment last year.
Well, it's about time to figure out exactly how they're going to go about doing it. You can see the trophy that everybody's got on their minds in front of you as we hop into Champion Select. Let's see how the teams are going to go about this one, as the Flash Wolves will start off targeting solo lane power there with the Jace, and the immediate ban from SKT is the Rek'Sai.
And in case you can't pick apart the previous time these two teams met in your mind, that was the Rumble mid-game played by Rather, trying something very, very tricky in that game. Ended up being a pretty standard victory for SKT. I remember Teddy having a big laning phase on the Kalista as well. So those are kind of the pieces that are out there. See where the adaptations are. This time, of course, Flash Wolves will be on the blue side.
Yeah, pretty interesting to note, not only is it actually a focus on the flex picks, it is actually a focus on the AD flex picks. So perhaps trying to force SKT's hand as far as taking more of an AP-heavy composition. I think that can be a good strategy, especially if you're looking towards something along the lines of a tank. If you want to play, that sort of style, something along the lines of a Cho'Gath even, it can be pretty effective. effective.
And I actually love this. I want to get to this point. The point I was going to get to is the reason why Jace is seen as kind of this super high tier flex pick is because he's an AD flex pick. So you think about what you want to pair with that, a magic damage jungler. The physical damage jungler now of Lee Sin has been banned away, so right now you're in a spot where a lot of Clid's comfort, if you do go Elise, is probably going to be with multiple AP laners.
All right, the first round of the bans are done half and half towards solo lanes and junglers, as those last two bans will be the Lee and the Jarvan, and it's up to Flash Wolves to go for the first pick.
Yeah, with Jarvan, Lee, Rek'Sai, as well as the two strongest AD flex picks all off the table, you are left with so many fewer options. Things like Olaf do start to kind of rise to the forefront. You know, riskier options along the lines of the Zhao can be brought out also. You know, Bugi certainly has played it very effectively against Team Liquid as well.
The tournament meta champions, even Sejuani, I guess you would throw in there, but there's also the hope of the extended bench, kind of the B-tier junglers that just have been outclassed by locking in a first-round high-tier jungler. But focusing on the picks, it was that first pick, Akali. It's been kind of Hanabi's champion every time they've played it, and the Sylas, that is a real flex opportunity for SKT.
There's so many flex picks so far this tournament. Even if some of them are targeted in the bans, the others will still find their way in. Both teams placing priority there. The Galio also locked in for the side of SKT, and there's that Zhao that you guys just mentioned, talking about the jungle pool getting pinched. That's picked up alongside the Orianna for Flash Wolves.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. There's not a lot of those high tier, you know, physical damage options left on the table right now. I am going to be very interested to see if SKT does feel that they do need to go to something along the lines of that Olaf. They are going to grab the Kalista, which was what they played last time around against the Flash Wolves. Teddy had a great game on that, as you pointed out earlier, Papa Smithy, and we'll see if SKT wants to go for a physical damage, you know, mid or top, or if they're going to put it in the jungle.
And in the mid-tier point of the spring season, it feels like there's always cycles of duo lanes that are considered the god tier. And there was a 2-week period in Korea where every team was falling over to try to get a lane like Kalista Galio. It plays to the strengths here, provides some engage. Now, Mada's been a bit shaky, and Galio, you make a wrong move. We even saw Mickey overextend on the Galio at level 1 and kind of leave perks to the whim of the enemy. This duo, played to its most aggressive possibility, can just snowball straight through a laning phase.
It definitely can, and anytime you have the Galio, you want to have secondary engage, ways to be able to actually bring him into the fight. I do think Nocturne could be another option here for SKT if they want to look towards a more heavily engage-focused composition that does fix some of their damage problems if they want to bring in a physical damage jungler here also.
Looking at the second round of the bans now, as those first 3 picks are locked in for each side, it will be some support focus from the side of SKT, getting rid of the Braum and the Nautilus, two of those powerful melee supports to go up against the Galio. Flash Wolves banning out the LeBlanc. They want to keep that out of the hands of FLICKR, keep Rather's Orianna safe from that.
The Nautilus especially, anything that can make a Kalista accountable is something you don't want to deal with. You want her ren setting through a team fight, so it makes perfect sense to go down that route. They seem happy enough for Tahm Kench to be a selection on the blue side here. Final ban gonna be the Cannon, so very interesting to see for secondary soul laner and also the jungle pick. And if it's gonna be a spicy jungle pick, maybe it lasts all the way to final pick.
Yeah, certainly possible. And another thing I'm always going to be looking at anytime Sylas gets locked in is ultimates to steal. Already there are 3 fantastic ones to take with Orianna, with the Akali, even the Zhao ultimate can be very effective. We're actually going to get the Vi, which is super hype. I didn't even go down the tier list of this because so few people have been playing it in competitive. Kobe, I know, is going to be popping off
Kobe
seeing
and
this
Dash
getting
are
locked
both
in.
Through the roof about this one. Vi locked in for Clid, as Flash Wolves will, unsurprisingly, take that Tahm Kench, and they'll pair it with the Varus that we see work so often with this champion.
Yeah, it's such an incredibly strong bottom lane, and I do think Tahm Kench, as an answer to the Vi especially, is very, very powerful. Azir going to be grabbed up here for SKT, though, and that has kind of been what FLICKR has been going towards mostly. Scaling mid laners, Azir, Corki, things along these lines. He has been, you know, that late game insurance for SKT. I am so excited to see how well this Vi is going to work out, though. Vi alongside the Galio is very powerful engage. You do kind of have that secondary follow-up here from the Sylas also, and it'll be interesting to see if they can actually pull it off.
The SKT comp just bridges really, really well. Like you say, Azir's there for the late game. The level 1, you'd give Sylas and the ability to brawl on the top side, and then, of course, Kalista and Galio can just kind of take over a mid game. So it bridges well from early to mid to late. And then level 6, of course, is the number that we always wait for with Vi. 2 games from Ananasik during the play-in stage on this champion. Actually, Cuz played against SKT in the semifinals of the LCK. A smattering of Vi, but it's still one that we jump up and down about because it's one of those newer picks and it can be just so fiery.
Yeah, it's so exciting to watch. And Ananasik did actually have some 1v9 games on the Vi. He was popping off in the play-ins.
Plenty of fun picks to see here this time around. Some that we've seen quite a few times, some a bit more rare. Either way, it should be an exciting match between Korea and LMS here yet again. Flash Wolves and SKT. Tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, and Flash Wolves would love to find themselves that 3rd win here. As you already mentioned, that could really throw the bottom half of the standings into upheaval if they do. But SKT, you best believe, will do everything in their power to stop it.
They certainly will, and we'll see if they're going to be able to pull this one off.
On to Summoner's Rift we go as we check in on what everybody's running as everybody runs out of those bases. It is the Aftershock on Vi, pretty popular these days, makes her very tanky as she goes in for the initiations. You are going to see Summoner's Spellbook there on Rather's Orianna as well.
Yeah, pretty interesting. You also see Bugi running the Conqueror here on Zhao. A lot of people had been going with Hail of Blades for that kind of instant knock-up, and SKT
down the bot lane.
Betty could be in some trouble here. Khan tries to go for the stun, not going to find it, but that is a flash expended level 1 on a very immobile target.
And I love top laners making tricky plays like this. You think of top lane Sion trying to camp the forward brush for the duo lane to walk into. You've got that level 1 where you can acquire a pick with the E there coming through from Khan, so they get a flash already. The 2v2 here is one where Betty just wants to push in, and from level 2, Varus, Tahm, Kench is probably the strongest duo lane around. Only level 1, when you can't skill Devour and also have some lane presence, does Varus, Tahm, Kench have some issues.
You do certainly have to be a lot more nervous about trying to heavily push, though, when you're on the side of Betty, and there is now no flash on this marksman. There is, you know, a Vi with the potential of a flash gank. There's the potential of a flash taunt, and yes, there is Tahm Kench to actually bring you some of that safety, but still, you know, if Clid is able to get down there, I do think that's something they can punish.
So one thing that we could tell just from the champions here is that because of that level 1 discrepancy on the blue side, brawling at the minion wave as the minions arrive in bot lane is more important than giving a leash. This is a game where giving a leash to your jungler is something that Kalista Galio can't really afford, and Varus, Tahm, Kench heavily incentivized to hit the wave. It changes when the flash is blown, but this was a game very likely for top-side jungle starts.
Yeah, and you can see that happening there on the side of SKT. Clid going from his red buff to the bottom side Scuttle Crab, while Bugi starts off on bottom side anyway, even without the leash, starting his own red there on the Zhao, going down to the Krugs. He'll be able to clear that one out rather easily. Zhao, one of those classic jungle champions designed for the role, has the inbuilt sustain, can take care of that easy breezy. As bottom side, you will see Teddy and Mata taking the early push in this lane. They know that they've got a real one-up here because of that flash.
But Zhao doesn't usually go for these AoE camps as a second camp. Went Krug second, I think, so he could hover around bot side for any one buff into bot lane cheese ganks after the flash is down. So actually, Zhao, who normally wants to go big camp into big camp to double scuttle if he can get away with it, actually had to slow down his own path just to give kind of a token little bit of help to the bot side.
Yeah, certainly the case, and you can see that SKT does actually have a ward on this top side Scuttle Crab, so they know that Bugi hasn't taken either Scuttle just yet. They do have the push, it looks like, now here from Khan, so it'll be interesting to see if they want to try to move down whatsoever and look to contest this, but they have eyes on him.
You can see the ping coming out there right as the ward expired. Bugi did walk into the range, so if nothing else, SKT knows he's right there in that upper river area. He will be able to secure the crab, so that's one each for both sides. As Clid will make his way back towards the top half of the jungle now after clearing out the bottom side. And this sort of mirrors, I think, what you were talking about with Flash Wolves on the bottom side, wanting to hover that bottom lane early with their jungler. SKT did the same thing with Clid, just making sure. But now it's FLICKR getting scrappy with Rather here in the mid lane.
Nice to see the scrapping there. Talk about top side, because we've actually had a lot of Akali versus Sylas, but I believe every other time it was in the mid lane. I actually think in the top lane, the ability of the Shroud to be extended so easily, and for you to actually just take over lane control and minion control, because it's so hard to walk up past the Shroud as a Sylas. I actually think in the top lane, this matchup actually goes further towards the Akali than kind of the skill matchup that we've seen in mid. Not always relevant, levels 1, 2, and 3, but it's something to keep your eyes out for that I think Akali should be so happy at the top.
Yeah, certainly the case, and we've seen just even Sylas as that individual champion struggle much more in the top lane than it has in mid lane. You know, on day one, we had seen Sylas coming out. People were, seeing it fail in the top lane, and most teams had been moving it down to the mid lane. We had seen such successful games from players like Caps, and now it is this return back to the top side for Khan, where, as you say, you can be more easily punished.
And if you're wondering why at home what's changed, over the 2 patches, the extra 6-second cooldown nerf onto the E stops you just brawling in minion waves the whole time, and in a longer lane you feel it. We could have 2v2 in mid. FLICKR seems to be walking away.
Bugi shows up, hits him with the second part of the win becoming lightning, makes sure FLICKR has to go home, but that's going to be it.
Yeah, and FLICKR does not have TP here, so rather TP's back, and he may try to set up like a little miniature freeze here, because FLICKR, as he goes back, will have to walk back to the lane. Some of these minions will be denied. Rather actually deciding to shove, which is a bit surprising. He may just want to reset one more time.
There was a really good comment on Twitter from Peter Dunn, who of course has been involved with Splice for a few years, about how the timing in our previous game was around punishing a Rise recall time, trying to get a tier by being there at the right time. And that's what you can use teleport advantages to do. Get back into lane, and even if they bring the jungler, they're going to miss out on a preferential back timing, like Azir is always a huge fan.
Well, SKT are going for a very early Ocean Drake here. Clid recognizes the opportunity to solo, and 5.5-minute Ocean feels real good.
Yeah, it's actually insane. I honestly feel that an Ocean Dragon this early is the strongest dragon at any point of the game. You know, when you're putting, even compared to an Infernal late game, this just invalidates so many laning phase advantages that you can get. Poke becomes much less of an issue. Mana bars can be expended much more freely, and this should give SKT much more of a free pass in these next couple minutes.
And just like when we talk about, oh, this team has a lot of carries and Infernal's going to be high value, the laners from SKT get lane presence from expending mana, specifically in the top lane, the Sylas mid lane, though.
There comes your Shireen Shuffle. FLICKR going in to make that one happen, but rather getting himself away with a nice flash. Clid's not able to follow up and outplay that one, so that means rather stay safe.
But you get the flash before Assault and Battery is even available from the Vi. Has used nothing to make that play, only the ult cooldown down from FLICKR. That's all about what happens in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, and that was such a slick play from FLICKR and Clid, scooping him right into that Vi Q. And Bugi is hanging around here, but FLICKR has a soldier available and can easily get out.
And you can tell FLICKR knew that that could be a sketchy situation if he stuck around any longer. The last hit immediately into right back over.
And I want to talk about a sketchy situation, because you think back to yesterday, FLICKR and Clid weren't really playing as a duo. The famous play where it fell apart in their second series against G2 was FLICKR backing while Clid went for a huge flank around the red buff. That was a disconnect between mid laner and jungle, and this new roster, their bread and butter from Kesper Cup onwards from many months ago, was how much FLICKR was willing to dodge out of lane to back up his new aggressive jungler. So something to watch, an evolving story, is whether they can right that ship today or whether it's a newer problem.
Yeah, and it's definitely interesting, when you talk about that, because it certainly hasn't been the style that we have seen from FLICKR. Clid is now 6th, so they could potentially look for rather here, but even against G2, for example, we did see FLICKR on the Azir into Caps LeBlanc. Caps is roaming everywhere across the map, and FLICKR is just taking the more guaranteed advantages, the CS advantages, but it looks like SKT trying to set up a 3-man dive here. Rather may have sniffed it out, but is staying around now.
Bugi's also going to be around mid lane, but it's plenty of manpower coming in for SKT, and that's all she wrote. First blood over to Khan.
Nice and decisive coming through from SKT. In the middle of the lane was Raleigh. He could have considered playing to the right side, but I think it won't make a difference when Assault and Battery is on the menu. So nicely done from SKT. A later first blood, but a clean one.
Yeah, that was very well done. And now on the bot side.
Bottom side 2v2, ShiauC trying to keep his AD carry safe. Bet he gets himself out of this one, but Clid's going to be showing up here if it extends any further. Instead makes his way into the tri-brush, clears out the control ward. and Flash Wolves will get away, but they did have to expend the cleanse there from the Tahm Kench.
One of the things I loved most about that play from SKT, though, is the fact that this is Khan bringing down the Akali ultimate as well. That makes it feel so guaranteed when you have the Vi ultimate for the gap closer. You have, essentially 3 gap closers now from Khan with the E and the 2 charges of the Akali ult. There's just no way for Rather to escape that, and there really are such effective ultimates for Sylas to steal, so I'm excited to see how Khan is going to be able to manipulate that in team fights going forward.
And Khan is also choosing to transfer his early advantage before Gunblade. Feels like every Akali matchup, it's before Gunblade and after Gunblade. An AD-BC situation going on there. So found the timing, made it happen for that. Gunblade is done. Mid lane buys back, as we know.
FLICKR looking to make yet another play, and there we go. No flash to get him out of it this time, and Rather can't even get the shockwave off the ground. That's 2-0 SK.
That is just sick from FLICKR and Clid. They are so clean on that coordination there. Dream a shuffle straight into the Vault Breaker, knocking him down.
And that's one of those small moments where, again, we're talking about what can we look forward from SKT, from what they showed today against 2 teams they're heavily expected to win on. It's synergy between mid and jungle that will be needed when it comes to those games against G2 and IG. And this second gank before Assault and Battery makes it a slam dunk is a great look. FLICKR sends it straight into the welcoming arms of the Q.
I mean, they're just using this pressure so well.
Bottom side, Betty's in some trouble yet again. Teddy and Mata not even needing interference from their jungler to make this 2v2 really sing. As top side, it's Clid and FLICKR and Khan coming down yet again just to make sure they're successful in stealing away this blue.
Yeah, you're taking the blue buff away from Rather. There's been so much pressure on him. Clid now with 3 visits to that mid lane, 2 without ultimate, 1 obviously that 3-man dive also, and Flash Wolves are going to have to do a better job setting up around Rather, either looking for counter ganks or getting him the vision to be able to protect himself, because he's getting abused.
And now topside, Khan's looking to make the play onto Hanabi here yet again. The stolen Akali ultimate does plenty of work there with the damage. Clid shows up, Assault and Battery ready to go. Flash into it, point and click, baby. There comes the damage. Shroud's not ready to go, and that means Hanabi is down. Rather makes the TP into the top side, but not there in time means all he can do is walk away as SKT finds yet another play for themselves. Bottom lane now, Mata's going in. It's going to be a taunt onto Betty once more. ShiauC again going to be forced to save him, and SKT is in total control across Summoner's Rift.
SKT are just dictating the map, and it's a different area. Why you might a bit understand Rather's frustration is that SKT, in their wins, have singled out one lane and taken it down 2 times in the top, 1 time in the bot lane. This is the first time mid lane focus has come in, and oh so appropriate against an Orianna who wants to farm up, who has that onus on finishing items to actually have team fight threat. Mid lane is already a bit of disarray, and this is some of the mid lane problems spilling to the top.
Yeah, and Khan able to get the ultimate out of Hanabi. It's a traded ult for ult on that stolen Sylas ultimate, but then Clid flash ult straight in, no escaping that. They know the Shroud is down, they know the ultimate is down. Khan doing a good job actually forcing out those resources before they go in for the play, and this is great stuff so far from SKT.
And importantly, Hanabi tried to flash away there at the very end, but he had already been clicked on by the Vi ultimate. That meant his fate was sealed. So that's an extra ward, just a cherry on top for SKT.
It's a kind of surreal feeling for me, but in 2019, point and click abilities are refreshing. You don't see a lot of Assault and Batteries anymore. The skill shots define the game. So Vi comes in, she does one thing well, and when you watch it, it's a treat to see.
Well, SKT will treat themselves to yet another objective. Mountain Drake going their way now, too, means they're going to have an easier time taking down turrets, Drakes, and Heralds, and Barons, and all that good stuff here in the future. Still 2 minutes left to go before turret plating falls, so that Mountain Drake might be able to put some more money in their pockets as well. The Flash Wolves have a 3-man setup around the Rift Herald here. It's ShiauC and Betty who've been rotated towards this top half of the map to help out, but SKT is not willing to concede this one.
They're slowly waiting for Kalista to move all the way from bot side, push out minion wave. Actually, they aggro on here.
Here we go. Rather's able to find a 2-man shockwave. Mata going to be channeling the taunt, looking to find multiple people. It's going to be Betty who's in some trouble first, taken down very low. Bugi's actually the one to be exploded as Rather's forced to go into the stopwatch. Now it's going to be ShiauC and Betty on the retreat, but Teddy's already able to find himself a kill, meaning this is popping off for SKT. ShiauC drops to FLICKR. It's 4 dead on the side of the Flash Wolves, and this could not go better for SK Telecom T1.
Yeah, it's a huge win for SKT. They are now fully in control of this game. Over 4,000 gold ahead of Flash Wolves. free 13 minutes. They can even look to knock down a first turret here with the Rift Herald.
Papa Smithy, you said coming into this that with wins over the teams they're facing today, SKT wasn't going to win over anyone that had lost some faith from their performance so far, but they could definitely show that they're here to play, and so far, this looks like the kind of League of Legends you want to see them playing.
And Varus, no doubters can be silenced today, but believers can go on believing and not be living in any sort of dream world. The fact that they're showing some more ability to play through mid-jungle that goes against their problems yesterday. The fact that their objective translations from something like a FLICKR strong laning phase and stealing blue buffs is another strong thing they'll want to recreate. If we zoom in on this particular fight, the Shockwave just trying to cause some disarray, but the moment that Teddy enters the fight, it feels like on all fronts SKT have this one set up.
Yeah, certainly are, and despite the fact that it was a solid Shockwave from Rather, he is split up from the rest of the team. He does not have the ability to follow forward and get there. And SKT able to get top lane turret off of that. They have knocked down all the plates in mid lane except for this final one as it has expired, and they're going to be able to get this turret as well. This is now nearly 6,000 gold ahead.
And Orianna, Varus, you know, they're very much backline champions who need to rely on a front line that's predictable, and that's just not how this game has gone. The gold is there on the side of SKT. The fights have been little chip damages from side to side. The fact that it's never really come together has actually played into Flashwolves' downfall, and now they need this to become a 40,000 gold game. You look at the top left of your screen, there's only 20,000 gold in their pockets, so those big items to actually get those fights started are a long ways off.
And what are you supposed to do when you're the backline cannons of a team and the front line can't withhold the assault coming in from SKT? You've got a Xin Zhao that's 0-1-1. This is an early game champion. You've got a Tahm Kench who's supposed to be your other frontliner, but that's not going to do much. SKT is in quite a position of control here.
They certainly are, and I think one of the scariest parts about this monumental gold lead for FLICKR, over 2,200 gold ahead of Rather, is the fact that he is playing the Azir. He is playing this monstrous late game team fighter who can reject a lot of the dive that potentially can come in from Hanabi. You know, with Akali and Xin Zhao, they have to essentially run straight into you. You can not only get pushed back as the Xin, you can get shuffled out of your shroud and knocked down very quickly.
So let's explore what's different here, because we've seen FLICKR on Azir, and most of those games, if you think back, were actually losses. So what's the difference here? Remember that was against Caps, who was roaming and was first roam at every opportunity, giving up minion waves to take over top lane, to make roam spot lane. This is instead another farming mid laner who's farming next to Azir, but doing it worse. Speaking of next to, that's a whole lot of champions on that screen.
Hanabi's under threat. Flashwolves have managed to get some backup there in time to prevent the dive and try to keep that tier 1 turret alive a little bit longer. But they've got to be so respectful of what SKT can do. FLICKR sets up shop here mid. The Sun Disc is going to make sure if the Flashwolves try to collapse, he's got somewhere to retreat to, and he'll do a lot of work very quickly onto this tier 2 turret of the Flashwolves.
It's just really straightforward macro play. They have the push in bot lane. FLICKR can have spare time in mid. There are no catch champions roaming around to counter roam, like we mentioned from Cap's champion pool. So this is how everything was intended in the G2 series that Cap subverted with both his play and his picks. Unfortunately, the Azir into Orianna is playing into FLICKR's hands.
And I think now we have to take a moment to look at things more from the Flashwolves side. SKT has been running this game, certainly. And the ways, you know, you kind of talk about of how would Flashwolves get back into this game? For me, it is about side lane advantages. You have to have Hanabi being able to draw someone to a side lane, utilize things like the Tahm Kench Abyssal Voyage to bring in multiple members, to get a kill on someone like Khan that can help to buy time for your backliners, for your core members, to get to that 40,000 gold.
And we remember that Pike gameplay, and it's not like Akali can't have smooth moves as well. It's just every chess piece around the Akali-Tahm Kench combination actually wants to show up to work, punch in the ticket, have all the wards set up, and then fight. They're not disarray champions like G2 was fielding. And that unfortunately means that now, in the present at 17 minutes with this gold disadvantage, there's the chance you try to all rock up and you're just actually extra food for SKT to munch on.
SKT are going to find themselves in control of yet another Ocean Drake here. That will be the grand total of the 7th objective for this team. 3 Drakes, 3 turrets, 1 Rift Herald. Everything showing up here for SKT as Mata moves forward into Flashwolves territory to clear out some wards. Flashwolves will try to contest it, but it's just so hard to move into their own jungle. Look at how dark this map is. 2 wards there in the top side of the jungle, 1 control ward here in the bottom side, but the rest of it is fog, and that fog is scary to walk into.
I mean, you can see this line essentially across the map here. That is basically how much of the map they have, and even less really in this bottom side jungle. They're getting pushed further and further back, and you'll notice how many camps that were originally in their territory are now food for Clid, for Teddy, for FLICKR to just spring them towards more and more items.
I was about to say, you're a bit optimistic they can get their Raptors. Yeah. I don't know about those, and those ones are going to be gone too.
My line accuracy may have left something to be desired.
Well, unfortunately, that's just the reality that Flash was living. So coming back to your question, putting down control wards and trying to find someone overzealously face-checking, you're thinking Mada is the first person who's done that the most this tournament. Even just to pick on a Galio sounds like not much. At home, you're like, okay, it's just a support, it doesn't change anything. When Galio dies, your ability to sweep changes, your ability to ward changes, and you get some breathing room to farm one more minion wave. Maybe you get a wolf cab, because right now, you ain't getting nothing. That's the dream.
Well, one of the most subtly discouraging things you saw there as Flash Wolves tried to place a ward down over the wall to see if their red was alive. As soon as you place the ward, it's immediately disabled because your opponents have the entire jungle control warded. You know that it's going to be a ward just to eke back into your own jungle and find that little bit of a foothold. Flash Wolves will try now as SKT has had to back, put some more control wards in the inventory. And gentlemen, I would direct your eyes to that inventory right now. Control wards in everyone's pocket except for Khan. They want to continue playing this aggressive game.
And I direct your eyes to the game timer. Baron time is coming soon. As Flash Wolves, the only kind of thing you can trade upon in these scenarios where you're being snuffed out of your own jungle is to look around the map, see where the minion waves are crashing, and that's usually the time you can go away from your super defensive position and start to clear some wards. But when Baron comes in, another headache starts to tinge.
Yeah, and that's honestly the only reason why Flash Wolves was even able to get some vision out of their bottom side jungle, because SKT was resetting to prep for Baron. That vision has now been moved over to this quadrant. You can see how dark this whole map is, and as you said, the Wolf Camp is a dream, and it will remain one as FLICKR's just going to take it away.
I mean, at least they know that FLICKR's not on the Baron. That's more information they would have gotten otherwise.
But Teddy could be.
Something. And yeah, that's the scary thing right now. The jump scare is real.
This is not just a team that's 8,000 gold ahead. This is a team that's 8,000 gold ahead with Kalista that has a Blade of the Ruined King and the Azir. That Baron will get shredded very rapidly if Flash Wolves are not there for an immediate response, and SKT continues shadowing this area.
And when I rate Barons, I talk about Baron speed, Baron secure, and turn off Baron. They're S tier in all those things. This is a huge power area for SKT to focus on, and it's one that they set themselves up with the gold lead. They can be a bit more stubborn around this area, take some chip damage, and be fine with their extra items or extra levels. Flash Wolves have to invade as 5 just to check the area.
And also the double ocean, right? You can stay out in these areas longer. You can start up the Baron and afford to take a little bit of poke, reset back off it, continually heal back up, and there's also potential for a 2-man Baron very easily, as Flash Wolves is now aware of.
It only takes 2. Look at how rapidly it dropped with only Clid and FLICKR putting damage into the objective. And it's so easy for them to disengage as well when it looks like Flash Wolves will commit.
Is this the first game ever where Double Ocean Mountain is the rigged jungle Drake spawns for a team? Because it plays into all those things. Azir, like you guys are mentioning, shreds Baron all on his own. So I hear some Azir autos, and I imagine some more Baron damage is starting.
Something's happening there in the fog of war. As you can see some question mark pings from the side of the Flash Wolves. They don't know for sure what's going on, but I'd be willing to bet they have an idea, as Baron is taken down, secured by SKT, just shy of 22 minutes.
And that is where you get that sick feeling in the pit of your stomach as Flash Wolves, knowing that your chances in this game are slipping away. You're already over 10,000 gold behind, and the Baron feels like it gives SKT the tools they need to breach these inhibitors, to breach these inhibitor turrets, and we'll see just how much and how aggressively they want to play with this Baron.
We're talking 2.5 items on a lot of these carries already. There was 2 item points already with things like Nashor's Ronomicon and the Hurricane Blade already done before the Baron. Now the insurance items, the gold graph here tells a very, very straightforward story. And look at the scale. This isn't a 5,000 gold scale. This is a 10,000 gold scale.
SKT is so far ahead right now, they can do whatever they want on this map. You can see them continuing to secure this neutral territory, Scuttle Crab into 3rd and final Ocean Drake, and surely after that, we'll see them use the next 2.5 minutes of this Baron power play to push right into the base of Flash Wolves. They have yet to break any tier 2 turrets, so that means there is plenty of standing gold left for this team to acquire, and it's the 1-3-1 getting set up, rather the 1-2-1, as bottom side, Clid's just sort of hovering FLICKR in case the Flash Wolves are feeling kind of cheeky.
Yeah, I mean, you have to try something, though, really, at this point for Flash Wolves. This is something I like to talk about as far as playing to win versus playing to not lose. And for Flash Wolves, if you want to play to win, even if that is the 5%, the 2%, even the 1% chance, if you see something slightly better than that, you need to take the opportunity. And that means engaging even in low-chance fights.
Well, here we go. Faker's going to be the target, taken very low and bursted down. Betty's finding the kill credit onto that one. Is now Clid and Mata have to disengage. They're in some trouble. Mata now likely going to die himself unless he can manage to get away with that flash. Pulled to safety by Teddy's ultimate. SKT seeing if there's an opportunity to re-engage this one, even though they already might be down a man. Clid's going in. He's able to find his way onto Betty here with the ultimate. Teddy's going to go on a killing spree, bringing down the enemy Zhao immediately. It's 4 versus 4. SKT back themselves away. Flash Wolves managed to go even in a fight, and that is about the best you can hope for.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, did it win them the game? No, not even close. But this is the way that you start to chip away at an otherwise unassailable gold lead. You need to make plays. You need to fight back and try to wrest control from SKT of your jungle camps. And even getting these little shutdowns can mean a lot.
Flash Wolves are a very proud team, and at some point you say, all right, in spite of what the enemy has, what does our comp do? The Shockwave teamfights, they're actually still too far away, but blowing up one person, Varus had 2 items, Akali has her full suite of early game done. Bursting one person is possible. That one person was FLICKR, as for the first time, they actually made that aggressive Abyssal Voyage play.
And important to point out, as it's on your screen right now, Khan, the highest leveled player on this map, has hit level 16 on the Sylas. Very important breakpoint, as with 40% CDR, it takes your ulti down to a 9-second cooldown as long as it's on different targets to steal from. So he'll be able to hijack multiple ultis during these team fights if he gets the opportunity. Currently sitting on the perfect execution, which we know will do plenty of damage with the items you see in his inventory right now. Flash Wolves, they may have made this pick happen, but they still have quite a battle ahead.
We see the replay here. Clid is shadowing FLICKR, but they're actually shadowing for a 2v2 or maybe an outnumbered 3v2 where they actually get the start. They don't get the start here. They get absolutely pincered coming through from the Abyssal Void. So very nice play, but enough space open by Mata to get back to 10.
Yeah, and once he does, SKT knows they can re-engage. Rather was spotted in the mid lane. They know this would be a 4v4 at the initial play. So SKT takes the 1 kill, disengages before Rather can actually join up with the rest of the squad. And it is a well-played re-engage from them.
And remember, our general approach, this series of SKT games, they play now, they play in the final game of the day against Fengvu Buffalo, is to really look at this team under the eye of, can they be a 3rd contender to the MSI crown? And we should mention that with the Baron, they got some standing gold, but SKT haven't broken the base with the first Baron. They're strong wave clear, there's reasons for that. The Abyssal Voyage is more simple when you're launching it from the base rather than in vision, but still, there have been some gaps in the playbook, which was pretty flawless for the first 20.
And if you are going to be comparing to that IG, to that G2, those are teams that have much more, it feels, in this tournament of that killer instinct, where they will try to take more. You give them an inch, they take a mile.
Definitely.
The jugular factor. Can you go for the throat when you have the opportunity and just end the game right then and there? SKT had 3 turrets before getting the Baron. They have 4 afterwards. Yes, they still command a 12,000 gold lead. Yes, this game, they are still incredibly favored to win, but they did not get a lot considering the circumstances and the conditions of the game.
And I think it's so interesting to hear pros' thoughts and coaches' thoughts on which way is right. Because while if you play that IG or G2 style, you can close out games more quickly, sometimes you're opening yourself up to more risk, right? There was a very interesting interview with Impact the other day where he called out SKT, despite their weaker start, as the strongest team in the tournament, because he said they make the fewest mistakes. When they have that lead, they are the team to close you out without giving up those picks, and SKT is looking to smother out Flash Wolves in that style.
And talking to Korean pros around LoL Park, I hear exactly the same thing. They see the games where against a bottom team IG, go for kill, the fun games as they call them, and they actually weight that way more negative than the games where they were able to actually go for that macro victory, and emphasize that SKT will do that more often than not. And it's just, again, a very innate playstyle difference between the regions, one that right now is under the microscope.
Well, the next Baron is alive here in 5 seconds. We saw how quickly SKT were able to get the first once they committed to it, and surely it'll be the same story told here again. Mata, the one who's closest to the Flash Wolves roster right now, he'll be running interference if the Wolves should try to get in the way of this one, but I highly doubt that'll happen as SKT's already got this on lock. Clid's able to find that secure, and Bugi's going to be in some trouble. Over the wall comes Khan, looking to find the damage onto multiple people. Rather's going to be taken very low and bursted out. ShiauC tries to get away. Betty has to flash. ShiauC will flash along with him. Still trying to make more plays are SKT. Flash Wolves will lose their support here. It's already 3 down, and this will surely be the end here. SKT ready to push up and make this one happen.
The turrets are no deterrent there for SKT. They secure the Baron. They chase past the tier 2s, knocking down Flash Wolves. And they don't have the minion wave, so they will reset one more time here, but SKT looking like they have this one in the bag.
And that's why sometimes you feel pedantic, because this Baron setup is perfect. Watching the replay, Khan is occupying Hanabi, and guess what's as big as the choke that stops Flash Wolves from getting the Baron? That's the taunt coming through from the Galio. They clear out, they do show the killer instinct chasing for more kills here for SKT, and for a team that's contending, it's always a question of is it enough, but this second Baron setup was flawless.
Certainly was, and you can see that gold lead on Khan showing its face in that fight, knocking down multiple members nearly instantly.
Next Drake going the way of the side of SKT. That one's secured, and considering it's 29 minutes, that means all future Drakes will be Elders, but somehow I have a feeling we won't be seeing any more Drakes this game, most likely. SKT with Baron for another 2 minutes, already a plus 3,000 on that power play, pushing the waves up in both mid and bottom. Able to take down the tier 2 there in the bottom side. Remember the last Baron play, it was FLICKR who found himself collapsed upon by an Abyssal Voyage out of ShiauC. That kill made it so Flash Wolves were able to stall out, prevent their base from really coming under siege. But now that SKT command the lead that they do, now they're in the late game with this Azir, with this Kalista, with this Sylas. Things are very, very scary for the side of the Flash Wolves, who have almost immediately lost their tier 3 mid turret.
SKT only playing 2 lanes. They want to play both lanes in range of Galio ult, so because of that, playing these 2 lanes, trying to force through it and get minimum 2 inhibitors.
Middle inhibitor already gone. Khan continuing to push up here in the bottom side. SKT now rotating bodies up towards the top side. They see that wave is starting to push as well. They'll go ahead, assist the minions with that, empower those with the Baron buff, take out this remaining tier 2 here, and then push for the tier 3. If you manage to take all 3 inhibitors, you won't even need the Baron buff any longer to siege the Nexus. As Khan could be in some trouble here, gonna be chain CC. Gets himself away though. Easy out there for the Sylas, and he draws so much attention to himself. It's free money just waiting there in the top lane. Inhibitor turret down, inhibitor under siege. See you later. And SKT have 2 inhibs down in the Flash Wolves base. Khan will continue pushing into the bottom side. Bugi goes in. Shockwave not going to find a whole lot. Bugi going to be taunted up. Mata into multiple people, also finding taunts of his own. Teddy goes on a rampage, finding the enemy jungler. Clid's going to be onto the back line, able to find the damage onto Rather. Going into the stopwatch, keeping himself alive, and the Flash Wolves are out of there. Hanabi the last man standing, but he too will fall. And SKT will find their win.
SKT done playing with their food, smacks them with their wallets, and sends them back to the back, knowing they'll play again today. But SKT, good first showing on a day where they can't change anyone's mind.
And I think it is such an impressive showing, particularly from Clid and FLICKR. How they worked together around that mid lane was so clean, so well executed with this Vi and Azir combo, constantly using that Azir shuffle into the Vault Breaker from the Vi, and even bringing down Khan for that 3-man dive for first blood. SKT looked in full control start to finish.
And out of the context of the 2019 meta and what we've seen from other teams, if you present this game to me, you bring it to Papa and say, what do you think? I'm saying A+ performance from SKT, but with all the context, with those small improvements that we could still see, and with the natural tendency of this tournament perhaps favoring the bold, an A-, it was still pretty damn clean from SKT.
SKT secured just under 20 objectives to 0 that game.
That's pretty good.
11 turrets, 5 Drakes, 2 Barons, and a Rift Herald. That's 19 out of 20, almost hitting that big 2-0. But if that's the biggest complaint you've got against them that game, I'd say they had a pretty solid showing.
You got the fun facts. The one I've noticed is that we've seen 3 games so far of Teddy's Kalista. He hasn't died in any of them.
Yeah, he's been looking so impressive, and I think this is a game they can be proud of and build upon.
Yeah, SKT making a good performance here. Exactly what their fans wanted to see out of them on that one, I would assume. But hey, let's check in for some more insight from the State Farm Analyst Desk and find out their thoughts.
Thank you very much, Captain Flowers. SKT moving to 4-3 with that victory over the Flash Wolves and solidly into 3rd place. But Kobe, we got a Vi.
We got it!
We got a Vi! That's all I want to talk about.
And you know what Vi is great at, James? Of course, point and click, hard forcing pressure onto a single target. Who is that single target? Orianna. Perfect target because Orianna does not have escapes of her own, always has to use summoner spells to get away from it. And in pick and ban, they were fairly sure that Rather is going to go back to this champion. It is his main champion. He looks the best on it, so this is one of the best counters that we've seen.
Let's take a trip down memory mid lane here with Clid piloting that Vi to a MasterCard player of the game.
So what we saw here, what I loved, was he went down to mid lane. Of course, we saw both of them, but the most impressive thing was the fact that he doubled down in the mid lane after the flash was already used. Bugi didn't get any control wards to the left side of the mid lane, so really he was just susceptible of that three-man gang.
The other thing that we saw, a couple of other really good pros of this champion. She's very good at soloing the dragon. We got a level 4 early Ocean Drake for them. Really helps out with the lane phase.
Yeah, and I just love the fact that you guys brought up the point and click CC. Like, the fact that Vi is such a punishing jungler when you do have someone a bit more fragile in that mid laner, like the Orianna, the repeat ganks, the repeat visits, and how you can just really push those advantages just opened up the entire game.
And with those advantages, I think we got kind of one of those looks of a more classic SKT control, right?
Camper Faker.
Camper Faker, but yeah, definitely that.
I'm actually going to push back a little bit.
Okay.
So what I think is most interesting about this SKT is that you finally have a different jungler. And it's kind of been this reoccurring trend with SKT about this is no longer Bengi or Blank or Peanut when they became more of like those cerebral ward bot type of junglers. And then Faker was kind of like the big guy that ate up resources. This is Clid who's leading the charge on a lot of these plays. And then it just happened to be Faker who benefited that time around. But that's what's so interesting because now what does the maximum ceiling of this SKT look like compared to the old SKT? Because at some point you really do need to separate them.
The second half of the game, I think, is a really good indicator of where this team is at when they have a good control because, we got a good look at SKT when they went up against G2 and losing that early game lead, that definitely hurt them, or at least their confidence, right? So in this game, they had a fantastic lead. That composition is in danger of getting collapsed on Baron with that composition that Flash Rolls have, so they didn't take that risk. They just sat in bushes. For a long time, the Observer had that, the lights shut out.
Zoom out.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just claustrophobic if you're on the Flash Roll side of the map.
I like this idea that you're bringing up of comparing SK Telecom to previous iterations, because people will always do that.
Yeah.
It's the most historically successful organization of all time. And if you do that, yes, the biggest difference is the jungle, is Clid, in this more offensive look. However, when people are doing that, I think you'll also need to compare the field that various years of SK Telecom are playing against, because we're now in a field where Invictus Gaming and G2's style of teams are taking over, and that is the success that at this iteration is having to deal with.
And I love the fact that you mentioned Peanut, because Peanut was supposed to be that aggressive jungler that
He was supposed to be the one.
But then you didn't get the consistency, and I love the fact that Clid is the whole package, the aggro nature of it, and also just the consistency, because he's the only one winning these MVPs.
And by my count, Clid is sitting on 4 player of the games here in the group stage for SKT. And so I'm going to go ahead and call back to Raz's list from the top of the day. His top 5 tier list, Clid was sitting up on top of that.
Is Clid 7-0, Dash?
Was Clid number 2 or what?
He was number one, right?
Number one.
He was number one.
Rookie was number 2.
The rookie was number 2.
Rookie was number 2.
But I think it speaks to the importance of this player to the team's success, right? When we talk about IG, we continue to talk about how it can come from so many different people, but it seems that for SKT, it starts and ends with Clid.
And what's crazy is, where Clid came from, being forged in the LPL with JDG right there. He actually took Ning to all 5 games, and looking at Clid domestically before moving over to the LCK, like back in LPL, there was a lot of inconsistencies. It's funny that you bring up like Peanut, you're like, he just wasn't consistent enough, but then Clid actually is for SKT, because that was almost never Clid's career back in the LPL.
And I would even say at the beginning of this year in LCK, this year with SKT, Clid wasn't consistent, right? But international stage, the performance has been clean.
Finding his footing. SKT rather still has 1 game ahead of them today in Game 6 against Fongvu Buffalo. But ahead of that, I want to take a look at the standings here for all of the group stages. Of course, Invictus Gaming sitting at 7-0, but SKT hold that third at 4-3.
I'm just going to say, fans of TL who just watched Flash Wolves lose to SKT, that was probably a sigh of relief. You're like, we cannot allow Flash Wolves to pick up victories, to put pressure on TL to maintain that 4th place position.
It's kind of rough, man. The last time and the only time a North American team has gotten into the knockout stage of MSI was CLG, like in that whole run that they had in the Shanghai event. So for Team Liquid, got to be able to buck that trend.
Yeah, they're going against IG next, but their remaining schedule to follow after that is SKT and G2 tomorrow. So no easy road for TL, only playing teams above them, and even more to your point than Frost. If the expectation is that they will drop all of those games, it would be important for TL that Flash Wolves doesn't sneak a win against another top team.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about games all playing out by the standings, then that is going to be the battle for 4th place, and we have to probably play that tiebreaker. But I am still holding out hope that Team Liquid take a game off of one of these teams ranked above them, SK Telecom, G2. Even IG.
There you go.
Wait for the fences.
You really muscled that one out there, Kobe Frost. What are you thinking?
And I keep having this conversation with a lot of the NA casters and analysts behind, like, where is the goalpost for you guys? And it feels like the sentiment really is that, like, 4th is expected getting to knockouts, but the one thing that you guys seem to want more than anything else is taking down G2, IG, or SKT.
Yes.
If that happens, are you just, like, happy? Doesn't matter if they drop after knockouts?
Well, I think if they do that, they wouldn't possibly, miss knockouts, right? And so therefore, not only would they hit 4th, but it at least gives us that inkling of, hey, something can be done. A contest can be made on these top teams. As the top 4 of MSI gets narrowed down, a reminder that picking up the new Conqueror Alistar skin contributes to the prize pool. Doesn't matter if you get just the skin or the bundle, 25% of revenue goes to the players competing. So pick up your skin today. When we return, Team Liquid load onto the Rift, opposite Invictus Gaming. Don't go anywhere.
Bugi's also going to be around mid lane, but it's plenty of manpower coming for SKT, and that's all she wrote. Faker looking to make yet another play, and there we go. No flash to get him out of it this time. Clid shows up, assault and battery ready to go. Flash into it, point and click, baby. There comes the damage. Teddy's already able to find himself a kill, meaning this is popping off for SKT. ShiauC drops to Faker. It's 4 down on the side of the Flash Wolves. Well, here we go. Faker's going to be the target, taken very low and bursted down. Still trying to make more plays are SKT. Flash Wolves will lose their support here. Clid's going to be onto the back line, able to find the damage onto Rather. Going into the stopwatch, keeping himself alive, and the Flash Wolves are out of